Hey there, Pete from the GenWell project here. How's that for a new countdown reel? Thanks to our good friend Tony Gold for his help in putting that reel together and giving us a little more branding as we kick off our shows here on Connected Conversations. Connected Conversations is a series of conversations that the GenWell project launched at the start of COVID-19. And our sole purpose for having these conversations is to help people through these challenging times, to connect you to people, ideas, tools, and organizations that can help us cope, find solutions, and build the resilience that will get us to the other side of COVID-19. The GenWell project, as we hope most of you know, is a human connection movement launched in 2016 here in Canada. Our mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by reminding people about the importance of face-to-face social connection and inspiring them to take action. As some of you may know, the research is greater than ever before that social connection is one of the greatest things that we can do for our health and happiness. But because none of us were ever educated on it like we were with eating well and exercise, it's critical that we share this message now with people more than ever. Today, we're excited to have Ni Kalman, a good friend of mine, somebody I've known a long time, and somebody who has been a leader in the recruiting space at AIP Connect. She's joining us, and to give you a little bit of a background on Ni, she's a 17-year marketer, both in agency and at a global beverage company, culminating in a game time decision of becoming a partner in a national ad agency, which she declined. This evolved into a career pivot where she realized that she wanted to market people that she believed in rather than brands. Today, she focuses on networking, having had the opportunity to connect hundreds of exceptional people to great companies where they've worked to further their careers through this journey. She's experienced the fun and the pain, the inspiration and desperation, and the trials and tribulations of all aspects of work life. Ni Kalman, I want to welcome you to the show because we are just absolutely thrilled that you've been able to spend some time with us today. How are you, Ni?
So very good, Pete. Love the intro. I like the 17 years old. I was starting there going, nailed it.
Well, there you go. You know, it's you look great for your age. That's awesome. Yeah. Trying to read off of the iPhone while I'm trying to run the show. It's all good. Hey, Ni, I'm really thankful for the time today because I think it's really important for people to hear this conversation right now. It's challenging times out there. The security of work that maybe you and I might have grown up with in our lives is gone. And certainly the insecurity of COVID-19 that it's placed on all of us on, when does it end? What impact does it have on our lives today, tomorrow, next week, next month? I think has created a lot of challenges for people in coping with what's out there. And I'm really excited to maybe share some of the insights that you've gleaned over your career, but obviously some of the conversations that you've been having over the last few months, because they must be things conversations that you could have never even have thought you would have been having in the industry that you're in.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, there's a level of frustration over a level of desperation, if I were to say. I'm talking now from a candidate lens.
Yeah.
Jumping right into it.
Yep.
I was noodling this through going, I've never heard the term, or not never, but infrequently heard the term, I'm feeling desperate. And I would say that that's been a little bit more common during COVID, but not exhaustively so. More so the theme I'm hearing is frustration. And the frustration, I think, can be managed. So it bugs me that people are feeling frustrated because sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, frustrated at who? Is it the client, or is it the business? Is it the process? Is it the recruiter? Who are they feeling frustrated with?
Yeah, I guess I'm not thinking strictly in recruitment per se, just frustrated in life. I think people are just frustrated because their kids are frustrating them. Their bubble circle. I feel bloody frustrated. I need to get out of my bloody bubble. There's just such an exhaustive level of frustration right now that I think is really tricky for people to manage. And I think that frustration stems, if we're talking about job searching, just feeling like you've given your all to an organization and then getting cut off at the knees. That's been upsetting, devastating, frustrating. Then the job search has been a bit frustrating, not being able to make contact with people, not getting response from people, just some basic things that you would think us as recruiters and us as just people would do out of the goodness of our heart, which is connect with each other. Makes so much sense. This forum, not to, script this thing, but the forum is exactly what it's meant to be. I mean, it's an absurd time to turn your back and not give people the love. Share the love, talk to people. I don't have enough hours in the day, but I can tell you my day starts. I'm jumping all over and I apologize.
I love it. Keep it going, girl.
My day starts with my inbox, and I'm absolutely inundated with candidates. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And that's not a statement to say it's a shitstorm out there. It's not a shitstorm. It's just a fact. It's reality. We're not going to pretend it's not. I literally start at the bottom of my inbox, and I try to navigate up and try to knock off 10 emails a day if I can get to it, to give them some context and try to book some time with them. Can I have that time tomorrow? Probably not. Can I do it over the next week? 100%. My team is fully intact, and their mandate is, we got 2 or 3 roles over here. We're not going to be making money. Let's call it for what it is. What we are going to do is we're going to help people. So pick up that bloody phone, talk to those people, give them a sounding board, because they just want to be heard. They want to be heard. And actually, if you sit and listen to these people, there's all sorts of stuff we can give them. You can't give them a job right this second, but there's stuff. There's things you got to be thinking about. There's things we can be doing. Feels like a long time, 7 months. I get it. It's going to continue to be a long time, but there's stuff we can be doing. And I don't feel like the sky is falling. I really don't feel the sky is falling.
Well, I think that's an amazing take. And before we even get into the deeper conversation, hey, thank you for continuing to maintain that positive attitude, because I know it's something you've always had. But, certainly with an inbox piled up a mountain high with, life, family, different things that you're trying to connect, it's awesome to hear that you're still and also being in the ditch and dealing with it each and every day, because you're seeing the candidates and the frustration, but still maintaining that positive attitude. That's an awesome thing. And so before we go deep into the whole thing, we always like to start off with one thing, and that's, and you, although you've probably never thought of yourself as this, is you're a bit of a caregiver. We're all a caregiver in some way, shape, or form, whether that's for elderly parents, whether that's for kids. But maybe your role as a caregiver is in helping people find their next place of work. And, caregivers are oftentimes the ones that are constantly thinking about other people, but nobody's checking in on them. So, in all the conversations we have on Connected Conversations, we want to say, hey, Ni Kalman, how are you doing 8 months into COVID-19? And what have you been experiencing personally?
So first, when it hit, I literally was sitting there going, sorry, what's happening? I think I was, like a lot of us, just not really, I'm not sure if I didn't take it seriously. I just didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. Dylan, my eldest daughter, graduating university, she's at school. My other daughter was visiting her. It was March. And I was just going, you know what, Tags, maybe you should bring Dylan home. This thing seems a little out of our control. I think Dylan should come home. Well, she came home that early weekend in March, and she never went back. So how am I dealing? Talk about caregiver. My dealing is, how's my world dealing? So when I think about me, if my kids are good, I'm great. If my kids aren't good, I'm not so good. So yeah, she graduated to this reality. It was not pretty. She had a plan. The plan was Europe, meet guys, have fun, be a kid while she can, because her mom's a recruiter. I can get her a job later. Be a kid, embrace it. Well, that's not going to happen. So she, fortunately for her, was able to work through the summer, but not happy camper. And she's since up and left and gone to Whistler. Makes me happy, although could be COVID Central. Who knows what's coming? But she's happy. She feels good. Tegan, also bizarre turn of events. Did commerce for 2 years, randomly came to me. You'll appreciate this, Pete, and said, yeah, I think I'm done with commerce. I think I'm going to do music. I'm like, sorry, what are we doing? She wrapped up her little stint in university, and she's now in Humber Jazz. The house is filled with music 24/7. The kid is playing constantly. So she's good. So then I'm good. Mama, older, my mama. Those are the things that work for me, right? So my mom's actually pretty good. She wasn't perfect early COVID. She's pretty good right now. So all things considered, business is in the shitter. It's going to come out. And it's not, and I only say that, I say that lightly. It's not in the shitter. We're fine. We're going to be fine. We're going to come out with a vengeance. We're fine. I think our responsibility is just adjusted slightly. Our responsibility to our clients has adjusted, and our responsibility to candidates has adjusted. But overall, I got nothing to complain about. Weather's good today. I'll take that.
Yeah, it's been a pretty incredible week. But I think your comment about adjusting, maybe we'll call it priorities, work priorities, has been something we've heard quite a bit, which is just people recognizing that right now it may not be just about the money and, what can we make off of this gig or that gig, but actually saying, hey, we've worked with these guys for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they've been great partners to us. And right now, we all need to recognize that we are in this together, that nobody's getting through this without some type of challenge. Yeah. And therefore, hey, how can we help? What do you need now? We'll figure it out later. We're part of the same team and we'll get there. And I think that's just such a great perspective on how we can all support each other through these challenging times.
Well, given I'm doing this, Pete, I don't do these things that often, but I was like, if I can help the cause, I'm in. Whatever I can. I honestly think people just need to think about, what can I do that's going to add value to someone's existence today? Yeah. It makes your day better. We all know that. Yeah. And it's the right thing to do. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I've actually wanted to have this conversation with you. And certainly I think I talked to Woody about it a couple times, which is, I believe that even pre-COVID, this conversation was important for people to hear, because whether you're in transition in the most fast-paced, distracted, and pressure-filled world in history that we were in pre-COVID or in COVID, they're both stressful times for people, because when you're on, I've often wanted to write this blog over the last year or so. It's, a couple times, some companies that I've walked away from when people said, you're walking away from where and why? And I always say, I made the right decisions because it wasn't the right time for me in the right place. But I think the important thing is, as I stood on the sidelines, when you go against the grain, oftentimes you feel like people are in a marathon and you're the one standing on the side of the marathon and you're kind of like, hey, where are you guys going? and yet nobody really knew where the end goal was. And I think, the pandemic and you and I chatted a little bit before the conversation is, maybe there's some silver linings coming out of this. And maybe it is about a gentler, kinder world, and, people thinking about each other as human beings first before we think about ourselves as clients and things like that. So some beautiful possibilities coming out the other side of this. You talked about frustration on behalf of people, and, you talked about being overwhelmed. And you talked about some ideas that you might have for people that were, feeling that sense of frustration. What do you say to somebody who's, sent you 8 emails in the last week, hoping to get some time for you, and you get on the phone with them? What's your advice to them? You've said the market's not, the way it was. What do you say to them?
So I think so there's 2 sides to that. I'll answer your question most importantly, which is, I think right now you got to tap your network. If you don't have a network, you got to get yourself out there, and that out there can be as simple as reading stuff that's being posted, educating yourself on things that might interest you. It may be in your line of business. It may have nothing to do with your line of business. Nobody cares. Review it, comment about it, get some words out there, get some noise out there. I know there's a lot of inundation with content, and so I'm really dubious about putting content in the marketplace. But I do think, as a candidate we'll speak of specifically, I think it's important to sort of take the time to think through what's important to me, and then get some messaging out there that sort of helps position you in that arena. And reaching out to people. I just talked to a candidate this morning he's fantastic. absolutely freaking top of his game guy got cut. It happens. As we were talking, what I was able to do with him is just go, have you thought about this over here? Because everything you've just said lives here. You're thinking very siloed. And I think right now the benefit is break the walls down. Don't think so linear. Try to go, okay, read something that's so dramatically not in your zone and see if it changes your lens. I think now's the time to challenge yourself, change up your general thinking. I think it's an interesting time for companies because the Cokes, the Crafts, the P&Gs of the world, there's a lot of, I'm jumping gears here, I apologize, but disdain for it. Are you giggling at?
You are, honestly, Ni, this is the conversation, is really being open to how do we approach it, and it is through conversation. So don't apologize.
And I think if you have one conversation, walk away from every conversation, go, can I get a little nugget out of that? Anything, even if it's a bit useless, there's something in there. And I think it is important to reach out to companies, to clients, to people you see on LinkedIn, to people you see out in the big bad world of the web and go, can I just strike up a conversation? Not everyone's going to be gracious and respond. I'd like to think people are going to be a little bit more responsive than they have been in past. But beyond being able to get a human being on the other end of the conversation, I think it's still important to kind of look beyond what you've been doing and see what else is out there. My point on the sort of Cokes, Crafts, P&Gs of the world, whatever, I think there's such a gap in terms of those big corporate machines and the way in which they operate. And then these interesting, let's call it a cleaning service for argument's sake, just because it's on my radar at the moment. And who wants to work at a cleaning service? But you know what? There are trials and tribulations and realities of business, and they're obscenely successful, are going to be the same as some of these corporate machines. Challenges, cleaning guy doesn't think the craft guy wants to come work for me. On the flip side, craft guy's kind of going, no, I'm not that into cleaning. I don't know why I'd go work in that arena. But the reality is business challenges, business realities are so much the same. What you learned over at craft, you can now showcase and explore dramatically in the cleaning zone. I use that. That's actually not a great example. My personal experience. I worked at Coke for years. I got recruited into this agency. They put me on shick. I literally said to Tom, my boss at the time, president of the agency, buddy, it's a shaving category, shoot me. Not interested for many reasons. And yeah, I think I don't see myself invested in this client. He's like, Ni, they're a fantastic client. You can't mess it up because anything you do, if you screw it up, they're going to think it's Gillette anyways. Go with it. So it was a fantastic opportunity to kind of play around on a brand and a vertical of business that didn't really pump my tires, so to speak. It was the best 5.5 years working on a client I'd ever had. It was the one thing I legitimately deeply missed, and we're in leaving the agency world, working on bloody shit. And it wasn't because of the razors. It wasn't about shaving category. It was about the people. It was about what went on behind the curtain. And that's the stuff that companies don't have the opportunity. I'm jumping again all over, but you said that's the way to go. So we're good here. I think there's such an opportunity for companies right now to grab fantastic talent, but they got to speak the language and figure out what are they putting out there to attract these people. And I think people need to give their head a shake and go, do I really want to work for Nike? Like, careful what I wish for. With all due respect, this is not a trash at Nike or Coke or whoever's on this bloody thing. It's just to say the sexy brands aren't always all they're cut out to be, and the complete non-sexy brands could be fantastically inspiring, personally fueling opportunities. That would be my statement.
Honestly, there's just so much in what you just said there. So certainly, I think we lived in the greatest growth era in the history of the world until about 2008. But now with the pandemic, we're obviously in a different phase of the economy than you and I have ever been in our lifetime. So maybe some of those preconceived notions as to what my career should be and what roles I was right for may have to expand a little bit, especially as people become a little more eager to get their jobs. But there's another part in there that I have to capture because it is what the GenWell project is all about. And everything that you talked about happened because of a conversation a conversation with the client, a conversation with Tom, a conversation with, other people. When you have conversation, this is what the research shows is, human connection, which you and I have never been educated on. We were told to go to the gym. We were told to eat better because that's what we were, the food guide's been around since 1942, participation since 1971. Now we need to educate people about the importance of human connection because it's not only good for your mental and physical health, but it helps you find solutions. Everything that you talked about in your scenario there was about connecting with people. And then it helps you build the resilience because once you have that community and you even think of social connection as, wow, if I go talk to Ni, maybe Ni will have a different perspective on what I'm thinking about doing. And I think you just beautifully portrayed that both on your own, in your own life. And then secondly, as to, hey, what could somebody be doing right now? Well, your piece of advice is go and get connected with some people and talk to them.
100%.
Yeah. And I know that's what you love and that's what you do and that's who you are, which makes it easy for you. And you talked about social media, you talked about connecting with people and commenting on stuff. Any other ways in which you see maybe somebody who's not as, we'll say, as social? Yeah. What's that person supposed to do? How can they get more connected?
It is trickier because it is a time where I think you got to put yourself out there. And I do think it's a time not to hide behind LinkedIn. The earlier frustration I was alluding to is LinkedIn, quite frankly, big part of it. It's amusing to me because when I started recruiting 14 years ago, people used to say, oh, there's this LinkedIn thing that's going to mow your lawn. You could be out of luck. And I kept going, really? It's kind of weird because last I checked, I don't see an algorithm changing the notion that I shook someone's hand, look them in the eye, and feel their being. So we'll fast forward to 14 years later, people are sitting there going, there's jobs being posted that are not sure they're quite real, and no response, and throwing my shit into the abyss in the hope that somebody might respond. There's just a really, it's a pretty bleak LinkedIn zone. And I don't mean to trash LinkedIn, but it is, that whole world is a little bit of a bleak existence. So if you are, back to your question, that more not outbound person, what do you do? Because you can't just walk into a bar and sit in a corner and try kind of to navigate something. You got to do it in your comfort zone. I know everybody has certain parameters around where their comfort is. I still think reading stuff and commenting on stuff will engage a certain level of conversation. I could be wrong. I don't post a lot of stuff, but lately I have, and the few things I do, it does engage conversation. People have called me about it. So I think for those who maybe aren't as comfortable to do human connection stuff just right out of the gate, you can hide a little bit, but just take those baby steps to start to get engaged in the World Wide Web and take a course here and there. There's a lot of free stuff out there. My daughter just asked to join masterclass, and I was looking at this thing, and it's all by celebrities, which is kind of goofy, but it kind of looks interesting. And it just, as I was looking at it, without even taking a class, I kind of thought, oh, there's a lot of stuff out there. So if I was not a terribly outbound person, it's a very comfortable, safe way to explore stuff that's totally out of my zone. And now, that's the fun stuff that's happening right now. And it doesn't have to be financial implication.
Yeah, I think it's a great piece of advice. And to your last point there is, when you think of the webinars and the panel discussions and the hosted conversations, even this one, people could watch this conversation who might be looking for a new gig and could say, hey, Ni, I saw you on Pete with the GenWell project, and I really loved what you said, about this point or that point. All of a sudden, there's immediate connection there because, unfortunately, and I've had several friends who are looking for a gig right now, and they keep saying, well, I spend an hour a day sending out resumes to this gig or that gig. And my response is always, you know what, as soon as it gets posted to LinkedIn or to any one of those platforms, the likelihood is you're one of a million people.
Totally.
What you need to be is that point of difference. What's the contact? How have you shown, as you pointed out, how have you shown that person that you're actually paying attention to their business, to what they're saying, what they're doing? How are you aligned? And what's the value that you can offer when you come forward to say, hey, I'd really like to work for you because, of X.
But also, if you can do the digging to find anybody who can give you a warm lead of a conversation, I think it's fantastically helpful.
Again, it's a second message of the GenWell. It's like, relationships, they make the world go round. And if you can get a warm lead in, that's what it's all about. I think a lot of us took relationships and a lot of us took connection. What keeps us healthy, what the research shows, is not just our family and those tight-knit bonds that we have there. It's actually what I refer to as the casual collisions. It's those people that you see in the hallway, on the street, at the coffee machine, at Starbucks, at wherever. The reality is, when you get a chance to build connections with people, and it doesn't mean that every relationship turns into, I'm going to call you every day, at 9 o'clock so that we can chat about our days. It means when I see Ni in the hallway or I see Ni on the street or at a coffee shop, it's like, hey, Ni, how you doing? And those things, not only do they make people happier and healthier, but they actually result in the relationships that you can call upon when you're in these challenging times.
Totally. I mean, one tip somebody said to me is, which I think is a good one too, if you don't have the natural inclination to push yourself, to get out there, to do the things you need to do, have a job search buddy. Somebody had mentioned that to me the other day, and I thought that makes a ton of sense, because there's so many of us right now out there looking and commiserating and trying, and it's hard to hold ourselves accountable in life, like going to the gym, doing whatever. But the job search requires somebody to share your woes with and push each other. So I kind of like the notion of a job search buddy. It's a whole thing I could do as a business opportunity, but I'm not, because I don't want to. I'm just busy, but I'd happily connect people to other people if they're looking to try to elevate their network and find other folks that are in a similar. I don't think it's a tough time to find people looking for jobs right now.
Yeah. And I love what you said there, is that it's finding that buddy to look for a job. But secondly, it's actually about recognizing, again, the GenWell message, which is, hey, if you're struggling, the worst thing that we can all do is get inside our own head, because we don't tend to tell ourselves that we're smart, attractive, doing all the right things. It's usually our fault. We're doing something wrong. It's usually a lot of self-beating. And the reality is that we need to actually find the people who can remind us just how good we are, the value that we add, and all the goodness that we bring to the world. So I think that's a great suggestion. So what about you and how you deal with clients, with the business side of clients? What's changed there? What are the businesses saying to you? How is recruiting changing when you're talking to, you mentioned a couple of the big packaged goods company. What's changing in that relationship?
So my business is dramatically different right now. So I would say if we had spoken 14 years ago, 12 years ago, 8 years ago, pretty much all CPG and a lot of agency. And that was the bulk of the roles that I had, and pretty traditional roles: brand manager, creative director, ECD, account service, that kind of stuff. Today, I don't have any CPG. I don't have very little agency. Those very traditional roles are being posted online by my clients. And what's happening is they are getting inundated by submissions, the few that are posting stuff. There's so many answers to this. So first and foremost, they're posting the more traditional roles they're posting online. They're getting inundated. We actually offered our services to a client. We charged an hourly rather than a recruitment fee, just to help them filter through 647 CVs that were submitted for a fairly elevated role, a very sought after role, I'd argue. Of those, 12 kind of in the zone. Of those, 3 warranted an interview. Of that, we're going to do a full search, because we didn't actually yield the best person for the job. So clients are having a rude awakening of what's going on there. That's tricky for them. There's that part. BIPOC is huge right now. So the Black, Indigenous people of color. I'm sitting on a board with Mark Harrison called Black Talent Initiative.
Yes.
It's a thing. It's a problem. We're all painstakingly aware of it. But I mean, I can't. If I were to be completely candid, my clients are saying, "Ni, 50% of my candidate pool has to be BIPOC." Like, oh, okay, let me get right on that. So there's not even that volume of people in the marketplace for that role. So, and they're dealing with the gong show internally because their ECD is going, look, I just need a creative guy. I don't give a shit if they come in a black, white, whatever, green, just want the right person for the job. But corporately and globally, they have certain mandates. So that's causing some conundrums, we shall say. But I'm doing a lot of work trying to speak to anybody of diversity. I think people are looking for companies that are hiring in diversity. So that's a big deal. People want to feel like they're working for companies who give a shit. So feeling connected to something that's doing good in the world, that's really critical. In fact, I find candidates are forfeiting salaries a little bit to be able to work with organizations that mean something to them. So lo and behold, the cleaning company may actually rise to the top of the heap versus XYZ who's, selling tobacco, shall we say.
Wow. That's actually a great, you can see all the stats and all the studies, but when people are going to the recruiter and saying, I'm looking for purpose in my job, I think we're finally at the point, maybe the pandemic's been the final straw, the final piece of the puzzle that people are actually saying, you know what, I'm tired of selling for numbers week after week.
Totally. I get that constantly.
So that's changing just about everything in how you do it, what you're doing, who you need to fill the role. So obviously,
the roles we're getting are so specific. It's like a unicorn guy. That's what we're being asked to hire for. So I'm doing, for example, supply chain, logistics. That's not my happy place. I'm steeped in it right now. It's my happy place because it's my client, but it's a little bit different than what I've been doing to date. A lot of e-commerce stuff, a lot of analytics stuff. What else is it? Cannabis has been big.
Yeah, for sure.
Been interesting. Different verticals of business having different needs.
Well, it sounds like you've got lots on the go, which is a good thing. Although I think we're all having to, and I don't even want to use the word, but we're all pivoting as we go here to figure out what the new customer need is, and I guess your industry is no different. What role has technology played? Is it just Zoom, or what else is happening in your space? Is there anything else that remote working has impacted in your world?
So it's interesting. I haven't embraced technology to the level that perhaps I should have. The notion of having algorithms evaluate and calibrate talent troubles me. So I have for 14 years kind of stayed away from it a little bit. Certainly have an elevated relationship with LinkedIn. And so, which cost me an arm and a leg, I'm not going to lie. They have jacked people and haven't been very nice during this whole COVID thing, because of course I called them going, okay, I can't be the only recruiter calling you going, it's got to be a little break happening, right? Like it's tough times. I'm like, nope. Like, good to know. Duly noted, LinkedIn. Am I trashing them enough? Anyways.
The GenWell project brought to you by LinkedIn. Oh no, they just canceled our sponsorship.
Exactly. And you know what? They're a fantastic platform. You need to use them, but you got to know what you can get out of them. That aside, one thing I have actually been using more of is a thing called PI, because I can't, like, fit is it's the end all be all. So I can meet somebody and I can calibrate. I can hire anybody to calibrate an individual and go, do they have these skills? Do they understand this language? Get them to answer these questions to see if they actually get it. But in the end, I don't give a shit about that. What I care about is, do you fit? Does the end receiver align philosophically, emotionally, and connectively with you as an individual? Because last I checked, you're giving up your life to go bleed for an organization. You want to care about who you work for. So that's been the theme for me for 14 years. Fit was always critical, and fit happens because I shake someone's hand. and I meet them. And my colleagues who are half my age have always said, "Nee, we don't need to meet them. We can call them. We can do video." No, I got to meet them because I'm 100. I need to shake their hands. I need to get them. So now, due to COVID, I'm forced to not meet them. So I have to spend that much more time having deep human conversations. And then there's the protocol. What am I allowed to ask? What am I not allowed to ask? To some degree, I want to know who the human is. And so I'm spending a ton of time getting to the human being. There is a tool called PI, predictive indexing. I'm not a huge fan of all these psych assessment things. I've been through the rigmarole of all of them over the years through Coke and other organizations. What I like about PI is a couple of things: super bloody quick. Call me ADD. I do it. I'm done, and I have a result. And the result is fairly bang on, shockingly bang on. And I do find it's not a deal. It's not a done deal once you've done a PI, but it certainly gives you some nuggets to think through in terms of who am I, where do I fit, and it's a 6-minute online evaluation tool, something that I incorporated years ago, and I feel like we're going to be using it a lot more through this time and then beyond.
Yeah, I guess when you incorporated it, I think you said 6 years ago, I guess you didn't think that it would be maybe your only way to actually assess somebody.
Yeah, it's tricky.
I think it's, again, what I love about everything you speak about, Ni, is the fact that it is all about human connection for you. And that is what, when you go into a business, you can have all the skill sets in the world, but if you can't relate to the other people and you can't get along with people on the team, then the likelihood of you staying there for an extended period of time is probably not good.
Yeah.
And I know that and I don't remember the rules, but I think it's, 6 months, a year. If somebody doesn't make it through that time, you don't get paid, or, things happen.
You're replacing them.
Yeah. And so you're going through the job search again, and that doesn't work for anybody. So that opportunity to try and assess somebody without that face-to-face human interaction certainly must be a big challenge right now.
That, and also from the client perspective, because the truth is, it's a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
And as much as I go hard on an individual to go, especially in sales, when I meet sales guys, I'm like, okay, that's great, but who are you? Like, what turns you on? What do you do for fun? What's the real human being? But same with the company. Yeah. So when a company's kind of mailing it in, going, "Nee, I need 6 people, sign me up." Like, okay, but why would they want to come work for you? Who are you guys? What's your leadership? And I can't go physically. Normally I would go and sit with the organization, and take it in firsthand, because I do not want to represent something that I can't buy myself, I wouldn't buy myself. It's got to be authentic for me.
It's such a great comment, because again, even as I'm talking to you, I'm always thinking about the individual looking for the job. And I think more so to your point about people wanting purpose and values and all those wonderful things, is that, we've often said, the interviewee should ask more questions than the interviewer, because you're about to make a life decision.
Totally.
You're basically giving up your life for a fee. And if it doesn't turn out to be the right thing, then nobody really wins.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think of how much we need to understand. And I think in the transition period that we are in right now with corporate leadership, we need to know who that leader is and what are the driving forces behind, are we just about the numbers? Because I think most people, if it's just about the numbers, Milton Friedman had a great idea back in the 70s, but I think we're all recognizing that it has to be bigger than just the numbers now. There's
got to be some soul.
Yeah. So I think people are really seeking that. And at a time when, then there's more gaps, there's more challenges, there's difficulty in making the connection. It just makes it, well, it's a great opportunity, I guess, for recruiters as you work through the solutions, whatever they are, whether it's PI, whether it's 6 feet apart and doing your physical distancing. I don't know all the ways, but to me, this is your future for the time being, I guess.
I actually do meet my clients. I have a client meeting on Thursday, and it will be social distanced. I less meet candidates, but I do occasionally meet clients. I think I almost have to.
You say it will be physical distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm physically going down there.
Yeah, and
in my hazmat suit.
Again, it's you and who you are, and I'm sure many people in the recruiting business. This is if you don't meet face to face and you don't understand. Well, first off, your client needs, but even how you're filling the gaps for them. I think it becomes a bit of a challenge when you can't really get to know who the people are.
Yeah, it's critical. In my world, it's critical.
So, what's your vision? I know you've got your crystal ball in the office there that you go to most mornings to figure out what the day is going to look like. I'm
on that every day, nailing it.
Yeah, right now with the last 8 months, we could probably all use that crystal ball, but I think it's broken. I think it's now a black 8 ball, and so we're looking at it, and I guess the question is, what does recruiting look like a little bit? But what's the job situation? What's your timeline? I know that you and Mr. Don Mayo from IMI International understand this marketplace better than most, but I think we're in this for a bit of the long haul. And so, how does that reflect on the work you do?
So yeah, no crystal ball. There's a thing called the news that it educates me a wee bit. I think it's pretty skewed. There's the vaccine that was announced yesterday. It's like got the 90%, but the rollout, who knows what, when.
Yeah.
I've been basically in my own brain, just to manage my own expectations, kind of going September. Like as of September, life might get normal-esque-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Give or take, and that's just based on some stuff I get from Dawn, some stuff that I hear out in the marketplace and whatever. That doesn't scare me. That doesn't upset me. I like having some framework to try to work within and then adjust it accordingly so I can work with that.
Yep.
I do think the election had people on pause. I think people were kind of mailing it in through the summer even, going, you know what, weather's fantastic. It's kind of a nice break. I'm not going to really gear up right now. September hit, and then there was a bit of a, oh shit, things did not get better. Yeah. People, everyone was talking about a second wave. The second wave definitely hit with a vengeance. And there was just I felt like there was a bit of a heaviness. I think the weather's really terrific right now, which is helping people. I think the election behind us is helping. I just got told by a client that we're going to pause all hiring until January. I think that's going to be a fairly consistent theme. But I think it's such a goofy, but when a door opens or a door closes, a window opens, whatever, that's happening every single day for me. So every second I think, oh no, we just lost that one. Okay, but 3 others just opened over here. It's not that people aren't hiring. It's just a different tune out there. And you just got to know that it is going to level out. And you just got to keep talking to people. I hate to say, but yeah, you got to stay connected with people, and you just got to, there's no point in sitting in this doldrum of going, wow, the sky, I don't feel the sky's falling. I just don't think it is. I think this is a great time to get outside, to learn to enjoy the winter. I'm a winter person. So I don't look upon the dark months going, oh, shoot me. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll have some fun. We'll play in the snow apart from one another. My little snow angel will be massive this winter. But whatever. I mean, I think this is a time to enjoy the simplicities of life. We can all put on a pound or two, nourish up, eat some yummy food, drink lots of booze, chat with one another, have fun. The sky is far from falling. Yeah, the economy is a bit of a shitstorm. It's going to go up and down. There is going to be a vaccine. I think there's all sorts of and it's going to ebb and flow.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I think those are sage words, which it's pretty simple, and I don't want to make a light perspective on the challenges that people are facing, but because certainly there are those who are facing not being able to pay their bills this month. And for those people,
For sure.
that's a much greater challenge. So, food, water, shelter, safety, security, Maslow's hierarchy, human connection, which you've only referred to about 300 times in a 45-minute conversation, which I appreciate, because this is the message that most of us don't know. When I speak to corporations now, I say, look, 90% of people have no idea how important staying connected to other people is to manage the stress, to find the solutions, to build the resilience. And that's what conversations like this do, Ni, is it opens people up to saying, hey, to your point, I think you said, don't sit and dwell. At the end of the day, get a conversation, go for a beer, go for a coffee, physically distance, pick up Zoom or Skype, whatever it is that you need to do. But because I certainly haven't thought about any challenges that I might be facing while you and I have been having this conversation, because I'm engaged in the conversation. And even if we went into talk about Donald Trump or, more COVID or whatever, the reality is those are all great little distractions away. And then when you get to the heartfelt conversations about, hey, what are you struggling with? How can I help? Who do you know? Maybe we can connect. All those conversations become so important. And you've done a great job explaining that. Hey, I've got one. Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Help each other.
Yeah, totally.
Now, if there's anything anyone should be focusing on for the next 9 months, help someone every single bloody day. Do something useful. Get your head out of your ass and do something useful. That is what I say to my kids. John and I say it to each other. It's just so basic. I'm no bloody saint, but it's so easy. I mean, I'm doing this to sort of go, okay, if I can help Pete, happy to. Not that it's not beneficial for me and enjoyment and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just go, if someone needs my time, I'm not that busy. Happy to help.
Yeah. And I think you and Dawn have displayed this for decades. So, it gives you an opportunity to really reinforce what's made you successful to date, because it is a fundamental thing that we need, which is about human connection.
Right.
So, hey, I got one last one before I ask our last question, which is, somebody wants to start something up. What are you hearing from people? Because there must be a lot of people who maybe they're done with the corporate gig. Mm-hmm. What are you hearing? What is there a percentage of people? Are you hearing a lot of it, or is it by the time they get to you, they've already starting up their own gig or consulting is not really a conversation that you get into?
I get into it all the time. I can't give you a stat. I think it's a great opportunity to put your wares out there. Probably something I should have expressed earlier, which is to say, if you're less of an outbound person, there's a great one. Figure out what you're freaking fantastic at and just allow yourself to be gun for hire for those bits and pieces. And they could be completely out of your zone of what you normally do and what you traditionally generated revenue from. So you really got to broaden that playing field and go, yeah, you know what? I might be able to give you some wine recommendations, and I'm starting that sort of focus. I personally, that's just random because I love wine, but I personally started my business. So just due to the fact that ignorant, so Tom said, Ni, replace yourself. I said, yeah, that makes total sense. Hired the guy who replaced me. He's in the role 14 years later. Lo and behold, I love connecting people. And that's how the business came to be. It was a bit fortuitous. It was a bit me just going, sure, why not? I don't say no to stuff. I cannot stand people saying, no, can't do that. I don't do no. No irritates. So stop with the no, make shit happen. In terms of being an entrepreneur, starting your own thing, why wouldn't you? I would just say, try to secure pro bono, one client, one person you can offer that possibility to, and just get a temperature check. Is there something here? Is there a nugget? Get them to give you a postmortem and then review where to take it from there. But I think it's a great time to start some stuff up. I've never looked back. I don't answer to the man, so to speak.
Yeah.
Makes me very happy.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that's great advice. And for a lot of people out there right now, one of the other things I'll say is, you talked about being just idle. I've got a couple of friends, one's an animator, and I just say, look, at the end of the day, you can sit at home and do nothing, or you can go and do some volunteer work for, the GenWell project. You could go and do some free work for somebody to demonstrate, so you can build a relationship with that person.
Totally.
So when they have, so again, if you've got a skill, somebody can probably benefit from it. And whether it's telling the story or building the relationship, both of those are valuable for you to find that next opportunity when it presents itself.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tegan, as I mentioned, music, whatever. All the restaurants in the hood are shutting down. They're in a gong show. We literally walked around, we created a one-pager and just said, I'll happily stand on the street corner and just play music. And it just kind of creates, and it was just so easy and nice. And people were like, do you have to pay you? No, it's just, it's nice for her because she gets out and plays music. The restaurants get a little live entertainment, people do. Just easy way. There's so many businesses who are struggling. If you take a second and look at your local business and go, is there anything I've got that they don't have that could help them a little bit? Throw it at them. Worst they can say is no, but it'll give you conversation happening.
Yeah, very cool. So we got one last question. First off, Ni, how can people get a hold of you or the people at AIP Connect, so that if they want to know more, have a conversation, see what the opportunities are, where do they go? What's your website? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I don't have anything to like hold up, but it's AIPconnect.com.
Wow, so like a URL like everybody else does.
That's where I was going. Or my email. I don't know. You can post my email.
No, that's awesome. Everybody can get a hold of you and the rest of the team through AIPconnect.com. And so we have one last question we like to ask everybody, Ni, and it's, how are you going to celebrate the end of COVID-19 when we can get back to being the way, we'll call it the new normal, but let's assume that we've got a vaccine, we've got the treatments, and we can get back to living the way we used to live. How are you going to celebrate?
I think you could answer this for me, but I'll just feed the lines. I like to host parties. I'm a party person. I will have such a massive blowout, no social distancing, many hugs, many kisses, live music, just a community of happy would be great. I'd do it at home. I'd do it at the office. Do it both places. I'll do it over and over and over again. Just be, woo, we're good.
Yeah, I think, Ni, you've been that way. You've been that way for a long time, my friend. And I think, you might even be part of the inspiration behind the whole GenWell project, because it's people like you who've demonstrated how human connection is at the root of all of us in making us happy and healthy. So thank you for the time today. We are looking to launch, something along the lines of Human Connection Day as part of GenWell project. And so when that time comes, when we can all get back out and get connected again, I hope we can all celebrate Human Connection Day, because I think we'll never take it for granted the way we might have taken it before. So
thanks, Pete. It was fun.
Thanks,
nice to
Ni.
meet you.
I wondered if you and I could chat for 50 minutes without any. I don't think I asked you any of the questions that I had set up. So
yeah, we won it, and we nailed it.
that is the way good conversations go. So thank you for the time, and thank you for the guidance, because I think a lot of people will benefit from that.
Hope it was helpful. Happy to do it again.
All right.
Ciao.